Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen, there are no ladies in here. There we go. Here.
WOTW HD2 Windermere, Bud 94.1. From the attorneys Justin Clark and Associates YouHavePower.com studios, this is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to another edition of Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark. Thank you, as always, for spending just a small part of your weekend here with us on Bud 94.1. I'm here to answer any legal question that you may have. Anything from accident to zonings, dial up the phones, 321-282-1055. During the week, we focus mostly on bankruptcy, your IRS problems, real estate, personal injury, and even student loan issues. But for the purposes of this show, I want you to reach out for anything. Any question that you have, 321-282-1055. The website is youhavepower.com. That is youhavepower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook or any social media platform at ATTY. Justin Clark. Joining me, as always, my good friend, and you know him as Orlando radio legend, Mick Dolan. Mick, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good.
Good to
Another
see
day
you.
in paradise.
And after a quick little week off to go watch spring training baseball in Arizona.
When I could have gone like 30 minutes down the street over here.
Unbelievable. Yes. Fly across the country, this man, to see his favorite team in spring training game. As I pointed out last week, Skid, there are 162 regular season games that you can go to.
Yeah.
But instead, you want to go to spring training game number one.
An exhibition one. Yes. And they lost. But, you know, hey.
Well, I'm glad you had fun.
It was fun, though. I mean, come on.
At least he could see the Indians in a nice environment like Arizona.
That was great.
We heard it was cold.
It was like in the 30s at night.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the desert. I mean, it got really cold at night. So luckily I packed some warm clothes. But yeah, in the daytime, it would get in the 70s and then just freezing at night.
It was beautiful here, at least.
Very nice.
Hope you had a good time. So today on the program, we have a very, very special show for you. We're not going to talk a lot about legal issues, but you know what I do most of the time for my career is I'm in the stress business. I'm in the debt business, and debt creates stress. There's no doubt about it. I see it every day. Almost every client that I meet with is going through some sort of difficult financial time, which inevitably leads to stress. And what does that stress really lead to? The stress leads to mental problems, mental stress, and then ultimately physical problems, physical stress. And I brought two of my very good friends, two people that are very important to me to help us really figure out why this happens and some things that we can do to alleviate some of this daily stress. And number one, further to my right here is a good friend of mine from a long time. And that's Dwight Bain. You know him. He's nationally certified life coach, licensed mental health counselor. He's on every media platform around here. You've seen him nationally really helping with your stress, the stress that really affects your brain and your mental being and then your family. He's also the founder of LifeWorks and StormStress.com. But more personally to me, Dwight, and I've told you this before one time, but I would be remiss if I didn't say it again. When I think about life and my sort of heaven on earth with life, what it makes me really happy during the week, what makes me the happiest, and it's unequivocally for me, that Friday or Saturday night at home with Pilar and my 5-year-old Sophia and now my 7-day-old Mila, fighting over what movie to watch or, are we going to watch TV? Are we going to go to the DVR? One of those nights where just because we're all together, takeout from some crappy restaurant tastes like Ruth's Chris because my family's together. Now, Dwight helped us through a time when Pilar and I hated each other. We were not in a good place. And my family is together today, and we have those Friday and Saturday nights because of one human being, and that's you.
Thank you.
And we're forever grateful for you.
Well, thank you, Justin.
And I have a 5-year-old daughter who walks down the stairs every morning and has mom and dad every morning. And it's a lot of it because of you. And I thank you.
I can see the tears in your eye because family is the most important thing that we have. Those powerful relationships, getting to be able to hear the words, Daddy. And because of Instagram, I get to watch her grow up and do horseback riding and swimming lessons and just absolutely steal your heart away. But really, Justin, that's why we're talking about dealing with stress, because you can have family. You can have a partner that you love. You can have kids that you love, and debt can just smother the life out of that. Number one reason couples break up is because of fights over money. And I love that you and Pilar said, you know what? What's most important? We're going to get through this together. And now 2 little girls will grow up with a loving mom and dad because you guys did some work. You faced some challenges. You got through it together. I'm very honored to be here.
And forever grateful. My family, Pilar, talks about you all the time. And I brought another good friend of mine as well. His name is Dr. William David, board-certified cardiologist, founder of the Cardiovascular Center with offices in Lake Mary and Deltona. And I tell you, from a heart doctor perspective, they get no better. Because a lot of being a doctor, too, Dr. David, is that bedside manner. And that's something that I know you're a great doctor. But when you're dealing with people going through these really challenging medical issues, being able to talk to their daughter and being a human being to them is very important. And I know that's what you are as well. Welcome to the program, Dr. David. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And people, when you see morning anchor, I know you were with George Estevez the other day. People ask morning anchors the same question all the time. It's, well, how is it getting up so early? I think they ask doctors the same thing. How does this call work? Everyone's wondering about how it works when you're on call.
Yeah, the way it works is like this. And actually, one of the issues that I always had as a young man was trying to get up early. I never wanted to get up early, and then I went into cardiology, and guess what? I have to get up early, and or during the middle of the night. So it's always a challenge. But here's how the call works. Typically, in my day, we start at 6 a.m. is when I'm on call, and that runs for 24 hours. Generally speaking, in my practice, the doctor on call is in the hospital for the 24 hours. And we treat patients that are critically ill, particularly patients coming in with heart attacks or other type of cardiovascular problems. And, sometimes it's a 12-hour day, sometimes it's an 18-hour day. There's times that I go home at 6 o'clock in the afternoon and then get called at 2 o'clock in the morning because a patient is having a heart attack. And the way we treat heart attacks today is that we need to be there, get the patient into the cath lab, and get the artery opened as quickly as we can. As we say, time is muscle, and the sooner you treat those patients, the better their prospect for survival. It's very exhilarating. It's a wonderful field that I'm in. I'm happy to do it. It certainly has its challenges, and certainly stress is part of what we do. But it's just a very rewarding field.
Well, Dr. David, let me just ask you straight up. Do you think that financial problems and the stress from these financial problems can lead to health problems?
Absolutely. There's many manifestations of stress, but certainly finances are a big factor. We've all experienced it in our lives. And when you don't have the money to do the things that you want to do or need to do, it's stressful for you. Am I going to make the mortgage? Am I going to make the car payment? The kids need, something, clothes. They need medicine. Medical care, of course, is a stressor in that a lot of people, unfortunately, even today, don't have health insurance. And so they either put off going to the doctor because they can't afford it, or they come to the doctor, and then when they hear what is really required to evaluate them and treat them, they realize there's a dollar sign in front of that, even if you give them a break. And a lot of times they don't follow through. So it's a real problem. But absolutely, financial stress is one of the biggest factors that we also deal with in the medical profession. I can tell you that everybody that comes into my office with a cardiac problem, everybody has stress.
Now, Dwight Bain, a lot of times you see these people before they actually get to the hospital or to the ER, before they're really having the heart attack. But can you say that financial stress is cited for a lot of the problems that you're dealing with people?
When you start to look at the research and the studies, Justin, it tells us that mental health, right? And 1 in 4 people in the United States go to counseling. The study came out earlier this week. 1 in 4 go to counseling now. So basically think of, 3 of your friends, if they're not in counseling, right, you're it, right? That's how it works. Being able to know that the stress and the pressure of not being able to pay your bills. And Justin, this is what you do to solve some of the pressure in people's lives, because creditors are merciless.
Unbelievable.
Those auto bots that can call, 50 times a day, 100 times a day, and just pound and harass somebody who already feels guilty, already feels ashamed, and then those creditors just pounding them. And that's why they need legal representation, because they just feel overwhelmed. And for some people, tragically, it leads to suicide. I've had personal friends during the recession, the Great Recession a few years ago, because they got upside down. Instead of saying, man, I'm upside down, I need some help. Because here's the principle, Justin. You talk through it to get through it. You talk through it to get through it. And they didn't talk through it. And they went out and got insurance policies, this or that, kind of played the game. They committed suicide because the financial pressure was crushing them. There is a way out, but you have to talk through it to get through it.
People come into my office when they're having these financial problems. Maybe the same day the IRS called or the IRS agent stopped by. Bank of America called as well, as did Amex. Their wife's mad at them. I mean, you feel like the world's caving in on you at times. And the stress level that I can see in people's faces when they come in to see me when this is going on, it's scary. And I, too, have lost now 2 separate clients over the last 10 years to suicide, and because it does happen. I mean, when you look at life and you think about, you have little kids that you feel responsible to take care of, but you worry about going to Winn-Dixie to buy food. You're afraid to swipe your debit card because you're afraid it might say declined. That's stuff.
Yeah.
This is stressful stuff. This is real world stuff. So many times when people come into my office, the one thing I'm good at is dealing with their financial problems. I will say, I will not let you hire me today unless you promise when you leave this office, you're going to leave this stress as much as you can behind you. You're going to try to get a good night's sleep tonight, or I'm not going to represent you. And oftentimes I can see almost the weight of the world going off of their shoulders, which I think is incredibly important because there are ways out of it. I mean, this is just financial stress, but this financial stress can lead you to have to go see Dr. David, right? And they call it a stress test for a reason, I guess. I mean, what is a stress test?
Well, we all go through stress every day, so every day is a stress test for most of us. Stress test is a means by which we literally stress the heart to see if there's any compromise in terms of circulation when the person's under stress. Typically in my practice and in cardiology, that's getting on a treadmill, exercising, getting to maximum heart rate, and seeing if there's any deviation in their heart rate, their rhythm, their blood pressure. And ultimately, we look to see if there's a problem with circulation to their coronary arteries and to their heart muscle. That's what a stress test is. A lot of people come in to my practice, again, with problems related to stress, not necessarily financial, but certainly financial stress is one of those issues. And it manifests itself in many ways. Keeping in mind when you're constantly under pressure, no matter what the pressure is, it's stress. And stress can cause a whole host of physiologic things to change in your body, thereby increasing blood pressure, making you, some people eat because of stress, they gain weight, that and then increases the likelihood of hypertension, diabetes, and so on, that all are risk factors for the number one killer, cardiovascular disease.
321-282-1055. YouHavePower.com. It is Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark, talking to Dr. William David and Dwight Bain about how to deal with stress in your life. 3 more segments ahead on Bud 94.1. This show's all about you two, so we can go anywhere you want to go.
Great.
And Mick, Skid, obviously chime in if you have any questions. Okay.
Absolutely. Let me know when you guys are ready. I'm ready. Okay. You ready?
Jake's ready?
Jake's ready? Everybody's ready?
Whatever you want.
All right. Then I'm ready. Here we go.
Welcome back to the show. It is Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark. If you have any questions whatsoever, 321-282-1055. YouHavePower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook at ATTY Justin Clark. I'm sitting here with 2 incredibly important people in my life. It's Dr. William David, cardiologist, one of the partners at the Cardiovascular Center in Lake Marion, Deltona, and one of my favorite people in the world who I always say saved my family, and that is Dwight Bain. We're talking about stress. We're talking about how stress can lead to psychological issues, mental problems, and then ultimately physical problems as well. And I see it all the time. There's no doubt that it happens. Dwight, let me ask you a question about children. Because a lot of times I'll have clients that come into my office going through a difficult financial time, and they're questioning, we have to go from private school to public school, or how do you tell that, or have to downsize the house? You're right. Your kid loves the house. They love this room. They don't want to move, but we have to downsize. We simply can't afford the bigger house anymore. How do we deal with young children when it comes to that?
I'm really glad you asked the question, Justin, because I want people to hear the word home. Because home is not a house. Home is not square footage. Home is where you belong. Home is a place of belonging. I remember after Hurricane Katrina dealing with people who were living in FEMA trailers, these little like travel trailers, because their homes had been destroyed. And talking with one woman, an African-American woman about the size of my grandmother, and I mean, she just embraced you. And I said, how are you guys holding up? And she told me their story. And she said, Thanksgiving is coming up. We survived the storm. Many of our friends didn't. Our kids are alive. Many of our friends lost family. And you know what? We're going to be in this little FEMA trailer. I've got a turkey. We're going to eat good because home is where you belong. I never forgot that. Remember Dorothy clicks her heels in The Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
Mick, right? No place like home. And so for a child, kids don't get into the shame and the embarrassment of, OMG, we have to leave the gated neighborhood. We have to leave the private school. Because home to them, particularly if they're younger than the age of 8, they just want mom and dad. If mom and dad are safe and stable, they don't care about anything. If mom and dad are not safe and stable, if mom and dad are fighting with each other, God forbid if they're turning to domestic violence, well, you spent money. Justin, we've got to get people talking before they get to your office because you're going to save them from the edge of the cliff. But I want them to talk before they get to Dr. David's office because I want to save them from cardiovascular disease and heart attack. I want to get them talking before they come to my office. If you talk through it, you can get through it. And home is a place to belong. And when we're able to say, guys, we're going to move in with grandma for a while, but you know what? We're going to eat good and we're going to get to keep the dog. And we're going to move some stuff, but
And we're
we
together.
are okay.
We're
And
together. We are together.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the most important part. But like you said, Dwight, before you have the heart attack, and Dr. David, I think the question that I have for you is we've all had a little chest pain here and there before, our back hurts or the left arm's tingly or whatever the signs are. We don't know. What are some of the signs? Maybe someone wasn't talking through it and the stress has really gotten to them. What are some of the signs that lead me to know I need to go to the ER or I need to call someone like you?
I think anytime you have, and you described chest pain, and we all have chest pain from time to time for a multitude of reasons. It can be musculoskeletal pain. It can be reflux because of increased acidity due to stress. It can be a bona fide, cardiovascular issue. And so we always tell patients, never assume that it's nothing. It's better to get checked out and make sure that it's not a problem. Because so many times I see patients that come to the hospital that waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a half a day with this nagging discomfort, but didn't really want to embarrass myself by going and having someone say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. So the symptoms that typically are most concerning are if you have a heaviness or pressure in your chest, and or associated symptoms with radiation to the jaw or to the elbows, not numbness, but basically a pressure or hurt with associated shortness of breath and sweating, boy, that's a pretty darn good indication that you may have a cardiovascular problem and should seek out medical attention. But let me just say this, Justin. What I do tell patients who come in who ultimately don't have a problem is I'd rather you come in and let's make certain that you don't have the problem as opposed to not getting medical therapy when, in fact, you need it.
At what age do I need to start getting regular cardiovascular type checkups? And what do I actually do to do those tests?
It's a good question. There's a lot of factors that will determine how early you should be screened for your potential heart problem. Number one is your family history. If you have a very strong family history of cardiovascular disease, mom or dad, certainly before the age of 50, then I advise most patients, certainly over the age of 30, that they should be screened. Should have your cholesterol checked to make sure there's no issues. We talk about weight reduction, cessation of smoking. All those are big factors in terms of reducing the likelihood of developing cardiovascular disease. The problem that we see today in the country is that obesity is on the rise. Probably 60% of the population or greater are overweight or obese.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Yeah. Oh no. Thank you very much. I'm just looking around the room.
Yeah, just
Just happened to be you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they always say you skinny guys always look around and say, "Hey, everybody's overweight." But it is a
you
problem.
know who you are.
Yeah, it is a problem. And with weight, you increase the risk of hypertension, high blood pressure. Diabetes is on the rise, and all these are major risk factors. So, depending on family history, depending on whether or not you have high cholesterol, you're diabetic, you smoke, you don't exercise, you're overweight, those are factors that should really drive someone to get or be evaluated sooner than later for the risk of cardiovascular disease, which includes not only heart attack but also stroke, kidney failure, and so on. So they're very important factors.
It strikes me that we're all three in a very similar business, albeit completely opposite spectrum. We're all in the same business, and I think our business really is debt management, stress management, and overall mental and physical health. Now, Dwight, let me ask you this, because, and I see this all the time as well. Sometimes clients will come into my office and they literally believe, because of all these phone calls they're getting, the harassment from debt collectors, the fact they lost their job, that the world really is caving in upon them.
Right.
That there's just no hope. They feel like a failure and they don't know what to do. How do people like me and people like you get them through this time?
Well, and it's what you said when we started, Justin. Family is more important than finances. Family, say it again, family is more important than finances. And when people are able to see what is most important, that's what I want individuals who are going through the financial pressure. And just as Dr. David was talking about a minute ago, if an individual goes in for medical tests and all these different things, it's expensive. We know a significant portion of the population do not have medical insurance. And if they do have medical insurance, the co-payments and deductibles may be staggering. I think, Justin, I've heard that one of the biggest reasons people file personal bankruptcy protection is medical debt.
True.
Is that right?
True.
Right.
Fact.
So their phone is ringing. They're not able to work. All these things are happening. But if I can get them to readjust priorities, I wish I could go back in time to the one guy in particular who killed himself because his business was failing, because at the funeral, his family said, "We wish we had our daddy back." Dad was more important than the house. Dad was more important than the boat, than the jet skis. I would have gotten rid of my new car. I wish my dad would have said something, because particularly I found for men, they're ashamed and afraid to admit, well, if the financial thing didn't work out, then I must be a failure. And I would draw their attention to our current president, who I think has gone through bankruptcy more than once. And yet he's been able to reinvent. 1994, a friend of mine was at an event, and I like to collect quotes. And Donald Trump was there as one of the speakers who said, "I'm not finished yet. There's more to my story." And I like quotes, and that's a great quote, because being able to say, just because financially things are not working out doesn't mean your life is over. Your life is more important than things. And if we can get people to talk about those core values, I think we can stop some of the fights and some of the mental health stress.
I had a client in the other day who came to me when he was really down and out, going through a divorce, had to file bankruptcy, had all the condos, and I told him when I saw him that, and I really take my job incredibly important, and as far as inspiring people as well, to let them know that I believe in them, and I know that they can overcome this. Like I've talked to you guys before about interactions with people, and you can really change the trajectory of their lives. You know, you treat people well, and I really think that one conversation with someone who might be down and out can change the trajectory of their life, and I really do believe that. But I told this client of mine, I can't wait till I see you again, because you're going to have to come hire me to do estate planning, because I know you're about to make a ton of dough. We're going to get through this. He was a nasty divorce, but I know you're going to come back here and hire me for estate planning, because you're going to have so much money that we're going to have to figure out what to do with it. And I tell you, he came in, this might have been 3 weeks ago, and he's like, "I just want to let you know I've never forgotten about what you told me that day. And you were really one of the only people who kept me inspired." And that made me feel good. I mean, it really did make me feel good. But most importantly, I think it gave him something to latch on to. But Dwight, I think that when you're doing couples therapy, or you're working with a husband and a wife, or couples in general, how often do you see financial stress lead to divorce or the potential of divorce?
It's always number one, right? So here's why they file. Really, the real reason, they don't communicate, they don't talk, right? So, but the reason that they list, money, sex, That's about it. You know, sometimes you
What
know,
else is there?
sometimes
I'm in.
your mother-in-law, but yeah, it's a pretty short list. But if I can get people talking about core values, that's when the fight stops. You know, a few weeks ago we saw the tragedy of the Valentine's Day school massacre. And the people who had been fighting with their kids that morning about, I can't believe you don't listen, you don't make up your bed, you're so terrible to me, you don't respect your mother. The ones, and there were about 3,000 who got their kid back, traumatized, PTSD. I mean, that was the tipping point of violence in our culture. And we've seen society rise up because the mom who was yelling at her daughter, you make such a mess in the kitchen, in a few hours, her core value of, sweetie, I don't care about the kitchen. I care about you. I don't care about you don't make up your bed. I care about you. And if we can get people to core values, that's when the fight stops, and that's when the healing begins.
Dwight Bain, I know that you do a lot of coaching, a lot of counseling. How do people find out more information about you?
They can go to dwightbain.com, lifeworksgroup.org, or you can just look up Counselor Dwight Orlando. I'm pretty easy to find because I post every day inspiration to challenge people how to get through life, make it work better.
Dr. William David, a lot of people out there with cardiovascular issues, I know. If they're looking for a good cardiovascular physician, how do they find out more information about you?
Oh, thank you. They can either call the office at 407-833-8028. That's our main office in Lake Mary. Or they can go to our website at thecardiovascularcenter.com.
But we're not done here yet, guys. We still have a half hour ahead. My name is Justin Clark. The name of the show, Behind the Law. If you have any questions, 321-282-1055. Here with Dwight Bain and Dr. William David. More just ahead on Bud 94.1.
Quick.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Roll right on through it.
What big
Great
picture
outlet.
stuff am
What
I
else
missing?
is there?
What big picture stuff am I missing?
No, I think you're doing a great job. I mean, you're right on. I think
Dwight, what am I
it's,
missing?
We're going right down the lane I wanted to go down.
Okay.
Because, as particularly the core value piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody knows they're stressed. But if we can get people talking about why they're stressed, and you know, he wants to blame her for the $1,000 Michael Kors purse. She wants to blame him for the $35,000 F-150 custom Laredo, which there's no comparison. The one is a foolish waste of money. The other is an investment.
Now, which is the other one? No, which is which is the question.
I just go out to the parking lot. It's light blue.
Yeah.
Got those LED lights on the front because I'm never taking it off road. But if I ever did, I need that winch on the front. It's not going to hurt my truck. Are you kidding me? The purse is a waste of time. Wait a minute, this is on Facebook Live. I was just kidding, Steve. Just kidding. Just kidding. That purse, I'm going to get you two. I'll put them right next to the saddlebags in the back of the truck.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm ready.
You guys ready?
Jake, are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
Welcome back to the show. Justin Clark with another edition of Behind the Law, right here on Bud 94.1. The phone number here in the studio, 321-282-1055. Plenty of information about our law firm on the website, www.youhavepower.com. That is youhavepower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook at ATTY Justin Clark. We're sort of skipping the law stuff today, but it strikes me that, you know what I do. I deal with debt, and I deal with the financial problems that sometimes invade all of our lives. And I meet with probably 20 people a day, and I feel their stress. My heart feels your stress, but the stress can lead to really mental problems, and it can lead to divorce and family problems. Then ultimately, it can lead to significant physical manifestations, including heart attacks and including death at
Life
times.
and death. It's life and death, Justin.
And that's why I have Dr. William David and I have Dwight Bain here as well. Dr. David, let me ask you a question. So we all go through stress. Like Dwight was just saying, we all are stressed. There's no doubt about it. Everyone has some sort of stress. What are some of the things that we can do daily? I don't think there's a cure for stress, right? But I think there are certain things that we can do in our daily lives to combat it. What are some of the things that we can do to help alleviate this stress?
Yeah, that's an important question, and certainly there's many things that one can do, but I I think that exercise, is probably one of the most important things that we can do to diffuse some of this energy that we have inside our bodies related to stress. And most of us attempt to exercise, but don't exercise enough, and it has significant cardiovascular benefits, not only from your heart's perspective, but also just mentally. You feel better after you've exercised. It gives you a better opportunity to sleep well, and that's another important factor that we need is sleep. If we don't have restorative sleep, it's an additional stress to our bodies and makes it difficult to work because you're tired, and it just makes life sometimes very unpleasant. So,
How much sleep do we need?
yeah, well, that's a good question. I need 24 hours. Certainly you need 8 hours of sleep to really restore the body's energy levels and rest the mind so that we can think clearly throughout the day.
I'm lucky to get 6.
Yeah, I can tell you, for me, of course, oftentimes I don't get 8 hours because of the practice and the nature of the work that I do, but clearly sleep is very, very important in terms of reducing stress as well.
And this is for both of you. I think we've all been at a place in our lives where something's bothering us so much that we can't kind of shake it. You can't go to sleep. You roll over on your pillow at night. You watch Keeping Up with the Kardashian reruns on your DVR because you can't sleep, and it's negatively affecting your life. It's just, you can't shake it. You can't shake it. You turn the pillow over 15 times to try to get the cold side to try to go to sleep, but you can't because you have something in your head, something that you're stressed about that you can't get rid of. And it seems to me that as a society, we've turned to just doing a little prescription for a little drug for your mental health. And maybe we don't talk about things. Maybe you just go get a prescription. Why as a society have we turned to just giving people drugs? Why don't we talk about stuff, Dwight?
When you go to the most basic negative emotion, it's the emotion of shame, embarrassment, being prideful, and being able to say, well, you know what, I don't have a problem. You have a problem, but I don't have a problem. And when people are able to, instead of hiding from their debt, hiding from the money problems, because if Justin, you do this every day. You're the best at being able to help people figure out. If you try to run from and ignore the Internal Revenue Service, good luck with that.
They run quickly. They run fast.
Yeah,
if you want.
They have really, you talk about, they follow Dr. David's advice. They exercise every day. They're chasing meat, right? Being able to say, if you ignore the money problems, they don't go away. They get bigger. It's like trying to ignore cancer or a serious health problem. But they ignore it through, like you said, junk TV. They're just trying to watch dumb stuff. Reality TV is popular because I can say, well, their life is more screwed up than mine, instead of being able to say, I need to deal with my life. Honey, we need to sit down, not at 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock at night, because that's when the fight starts and that's what's going to disrupt the sleep. But, on a Sunday afternoon when things have slowed down, to say, instead of going to the mall to spend money that we don't have on credit card and create more credit card debt, let's sit down, take all these bills, pile them on the table, and instead of fighting about it, let's figure it out. Instead of fighting about it, let's sit down and develop a plan. A budget is essentially your plan. It's not somebody else's plan, it's your plan. And a budget gives you control of spending. I know that every medical bill, if you call the number on the bottom of the statement somewhere, somebody wants to talk to you. And it's their job to say, pay us all of it. And if you say, I can't, then it's their job to say, what can you pay? Facing the financial pressure, that's how we get there. Talking through it to be able to get through it, but having the numbers in front of you. And just for many people, Justin, I say, how much do you owe? And they'll say, I don't know, a lot. Well, how much is a lot? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know, then you're fighting demons that are bigger than they really are.
Dr. David, are we too quick as a medical society in prescribing little pills for people as opposed to sending them to Dwight or sending them to someone like Dwight to really talk through their problems? Are we too quick as a medical society now to give people pills?
Absolutely. One of the problems we have with the opioid epidemic is just that fact, is that we were trained and told that if someone has pain, you have to control that pain, and if you don't control that pain, you are in legal jeopardy. So what happened over the last 10, 20 years is that everybody that's got a little ache or pain gets a narcotic to treat that pain. Now we have an epidemic, and people are dying in droves. It's unfortunate. Same thing with psychological issues. Talking And to Dwight's point, I think he's right on, is you have to communicate. One of the things we don't do at night in terms of stress relief is we go home, we turn on the TV, we watch all this nonsense that's called the news, and then we get all riled up. We don't talk to each other, we don't communicate, and therefore we can't discuss the problems, that even the minor problems that we may have. And then, of course, they just kind of manifest themselves into a bigger and bigger thing. Stress, and then sometimes, unfortunately, divorce and counseling. So counseling is very, very important. And I think talking through things is much, much better than a pill.
Same
Sometimes-
question to you, Dwight. Do you think that as a society, medically, are we too quick to just give these kids or even adults drugs as opposed to working through our problems?
Well, there's no question. The council, the opioid crisis we've heard about, 175 people a day die because of the opioid crisis. Because at a certain point in time, our culture said you should never feel pain. Instead of, you have to be able to manage pain. Let's figure out the source of pain. Let's not try to mask pain. Because if you're masking it, it's not going away. That's like using your American Express to pay your Discover so that you don't have a late payment on your MasterCard.
Can you do that?
Not for long. Not for long. And so instead of saying, well, I want to put a Band-Aid on it. Just give me a pill, doc. Give me a pill, Dr. David. Give me a pill to make it go away. Or being able to get an offer in the mail that says, hey, you've been pre-approved for at a super low introductory rate because we're trying to hook you into a super huge rate. And then all of a sudden that they're hooked. Being able to sit down and talk about real numbers, talk about real core values, and then just being able to say, do we really need the Michael Kors purse or the F-150, like we were talking about on Facebook, because I did not mean to be offensive to anybody who likes designer purses. I know that's one of the most important things in life.
Super important.
Except not to me. Okay. No, but there's no pill that takes away reality. Not for long.
That really makes us feel well. I know for a fact, me personally, used to drink way, way too much as a result of stress, and it's hard to kind of learn your limits and your boundaries and how much to do it. But you both must see people who are stressed out in life turn to the bottle or turn to drugs to solve these problems. Dr. Dave, does it solve the problems? And can it have negative health consequences to them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the problems with alcohol, and I enjoy a glass of wine in the evening. It does help to relax you. There's actually some physiologic benefit to alcohol in terms of lowering pressure, increasing good cholesterol. So, but in very small amounts. The people that turn to alcohol to solve their problems or their depression only makes the depression worse, and oftentimes these people get hooked on alcohol and become alcoholics, and then all its manifestations of liver disease and so on, and people are dying every day from alcoholism. As far as other drugs, marijuana, that debate is ongoing, and I'm not really an expert to talk about that. But again, I think if you can deal with your problems, talk your problems out, a lot of these drugs, these substances aren't really required.
Dwight, you must see the backside of that. You must see patients of yours who come in because of stress has turned into alcoholism or just they're drinking too much. I mean, you must see that all the time.
Well, I do. There's a basic principle I've learned in being involved in a lot of crisis management. And here's the principle. In a crisis, don't make it worse. And so I've got financial crisis or I've lost my job. All right, so in a crisis, don't make it worse. And to go and to hide in a bottle, that doesn't make it better. That makes it worse. Or to be able, and I want to add one to the conversation because we talked about drugs. We talked about prescription drugs. But I want to talk about comfort food because when you start to look at, many times I've noticed the people who may say, my daddy was an alcoholic. I'm not going to be an alcoholic. Not going to do that. They either can't get to prescription opioids or they know that dog bites and that's going to take me down. But boy, they'll go jack up on carbs and eat a whole pizza. And they use the comfort food, and then pretty soon, now we're getting into cardiovascular territory because of the stress and pressure. Don't want to deal with stress, so I'm going to just eat a massive amount of carbs to try to hide from the stress. And now all of a sudden, obesity is building, and now we go into diabetes, now we go into cardiovascular, and now we go into a heart attack, and now we go into $80,000 co-payment medical bills that insurance didn't cover, and went back to if you just dealt with the stress right here, and being able to say if I can catch it here. solve it here, prevent all this. I don't want people to come to my office or Dr. David's office. I don't want them to come to your office, Justin. I know that you're there because you're the safety net to save their livelihood and to get a reboot for their life. But I want them to solve it at the front end. That's what we all want. Solve the stress, change your life.
I mean, we're going to ask Dr. William David and Dwight Bain on the other side of this break this question. And the question is, why is it that mentally, when things are going poorly, our body or our mind craves bad stuff, whether it's booze or pills or bad food? Why does that make us temporarily feel better? Because I don't know the answer. 321-282-1055. YouHavePower.com. My name is Justin Clark. One more segment ahead on Bud 94.1. No.
Hopefully we can answer it.
Maybe. If not, maybe we just don't have an answer. I don't know.
All right, can you get a picture of us while we're on break?
Yeah.
Or you can cross-promote it. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Thank you.
3, 2.
Thanks.
Hold on, I'll send you some of the photos that I took.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
You guys
Whenever
ready?
you guys are ready.
Yep.
Right? This is 3. Here? 4. This is 4. That's 1. Here.
Attorney Justin Clark back with you for a final segment of Behind the Law. If you have any questions for us, the phone number is 321-282-1055. The website is youhavepower.com. I have two very important people in the studio with me right now. It's Dwight Bain. He is the founder of LifeWorks, stormstress.com, a certified, he's everywhere. You guys know who he is. It's Dwight Bain. You see him on media across the planet, really. Dwight, how do people find more information about you?
They can just type in my name, Dwight Bain, DWIGHTBAIN. And every day I'm posting across multiple media platforms, social media, over-the-top media, to be able to say, these are some principles that'll help you to get through the day. These are some things that'll make your life work better. If you make positive changes now, tiny changes, ripple effect, because, Justin, there's an old saying, don't sweat the small stuff, completely inaccurate. Sweat the small stuff. Do some tiny decisions today. Get up 5 minutes earlier. Exercise for 5 minutes. Just get started. Small stuff creates big stuff. It's the same with debt management. Start just by looking at it. It changes everything.
I fully agree. 365 days in a year. If you do something a little bit better each day, I mean that's 365 times to do something a little bit better.
Justin, the small stuff, when you have a success, it's like it's a small success, but it's still a success. You're moving forward, so you don't have to feel so depressed about everything, hitting you at once.
Yeah.
Deal with one at a time.
Little wins.
Absolutely right, McDolan. Absolutely. And Dr. William David is here. He's, in my opinion, the best cardiologist in all of Central Florida, no doubt about it. The founder or partner at Cardiovascular Center in Lake Mary and an office in Deltona as well. How do they find more information about you, Dr. David?
Go to our website, thecardiovascularcenter.com, or call the office, 407-833-8028.
So things go poorly in life. We're stressed out. We owe a bunch of money to the IRS or whatever reason. Something in life is causing me stress. It seems to me that a few different routes you can take. One is you can just kind of shut it all out and deal with it. At some point, something bad is going to happen. You could start turning to Jack Daniels and drinking way too much Jack Daniels to try to hide from it. You can eat a bunch of Oreos at night and hide from it. Or you can go exercise. But why is it, gentlemen? Any thoughts on why, when things are going poorly or when we're stressed out, we turn to things that are bad for us? Any thoughts? Because I don't know. Maybe you don't know. But there's got to be some sort of thoughts on this.
I think when things are going bad, whatever the circumstance may be, people are looking for an escape. Alcohol is an escape. It dulls the senses. People drink and then forget about what their problems are until the next day, and of course, then it comes right back to bite them. Or use of other drugs. Escape can be many things. Escape can be going out and taking a walk into an area that you haven't been before. People go to the movies for an escape because they forget about their problems, at least for the 2 hours when they're watching the screen. So there's good methods to escape, and then there's bad methods, and certainly I think alcohol and drugs are a bad prescription for a bad outcome, in my opinion.
When I look at this, you can either be running from something, right? That's escapism. You're running from, or you can run toward. And so I want to be able to see people, instead of running from the problems with alcohol, with Oreos, although I've never thought of Jack Daniels and Oreos in the same sentence.
Pretty disgusting.
I'm not sure, Mick. What do you think?
I kind of like it.
I said or.
Let's do it.
I said Jack Daniels or Oreos.
I mean, I know there's Oreos flavored ice cream, but somebody just out there, an entrepreneur, got an idea, right?
Yeah.
You can be running from your fears, or you can run toward them. There's a wonderful ancient story of David and Goliath. The little the shepherd boy who runs toward the giant, right? And you say, well, how did that happen? Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called about David and Goliath, and it was about tiny things that conquer big things. It's a fantastic business book, because when you take a stone from a slinger in that period in history, it was like literally a 45 Magnum, because when you were running toward your target and you're slinging it, you have more momentum. When you're running toward the financial fears, running toward a creditor, running toward the Internal Revenue Service, you know what? I'm going to face this, running toward instead of running away. Now, it's normal to be afraid. Everybody gets afraid. If you're not afraid, then I know that you've had Jack Daniels and Oreos today, because everybody gets afraid. But if I'm running toward the fear, I now have more courage and confidence. Quick story, a friend of mine was in a business deal with then Donald Trump, today President Trump, and I said, how did it work out? Because the real estate deal went south. He said it was interesting. He walked in the room, the bankers had been there for an hour, the lawyers had been there for an hour, and he walked in for 5 minutes, shook everybody's hand. Good to see you. How you doing? We're going to work this out. The attorneys are going to work it out. Really appreciate you. Have a good time. Photo op, walks out. And I said to my friend who lost a lot of money in the deal, he said he had such confidence. You say, how do you get such confidence? You run toward the financial problem, you get confidence. You run away, you're now losing momentum, you're losing that strength inside, you're losing control of the conversation. And now the creditors are used to chasing you. It's like the old saying, German Shepherds like to chase cars, but what are they going to do when they catch it? Creditors are good at chasing you, but they're not used to you being able to pick up the phone, call, and say, well, listen, we need to work something out. I looked at this, had a heart attack, had all these medical bills. How can we figure this out? They're not used to it, but it gives you back. It's exactly what you say, Justin. You have power.com. You have the power when you run toward the fear, not away.
That's right.
This guy is good.
It's the Oreos.
It is.
Even professionals obviously have problems too. Whether you're a cardiologist, a professional and famous radio man, or a worldwide and well-known mental health counselor, we have our own stress as well. Dr. David, I mean, it's clear to me that you've probably seen some pretty bad things in the ER before. I mean, there's no doubt that you've probably seen something happen that wasn't very nice, and you've seen lives lost right in front of you at times, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours later you're at dinner with your wife. I mean, how as a doctor who spends a lot of time in the ER, are you able as a human to sort of block that out?
Yeah, I think it's an important question that I oftentimes ask ourselves. How do we cope with death and dying, and then basically turn around and go have dinner or crack a joke or something like that? And it's just part of what it's part of what we do. I think we kind of learn how to deal with the stress. Not always, and there's compromised professionals that turn to drugs and other things to kind of help them through the day. I've just been blessed with a demeanor that allows me to deal with a lot of stress and at the same time be able to take care of my needs. And I think one of the things that's so important that Dwight's mentioned many times here is you have to communicate. You have to look and understand what really matters in your life. And what matters in your life is your family and time to really communicate. And, of course, my 2 little beautiful grandchildren that I look forward to seeing. So you try to put things in perspective. I'd like to say that I think the problem people have that are under stress is they don't know how to cope with it, and so they need professional help. And one of the things that even as a cardiologist I do is give mental health, if you will, in the office. I talk to people in terms of what they need to do to try to better themselves. And then just give them a kind of, at the end, say, listen, everything's going to be fine. Here's what we need to do. They just need some guidance. And if they get that guidance, it makes a big difference in terms of how they cope and deal with their life problems.
And in a general day, Dwight, I imagine you see many, many patients who are all going through some kind of difficult time, and you're bearing the weight of their world on your shoulders a little bit as well. Same with you, Dr. David, when you're trying to save someone's life. For me as well, when I'm trying to save their financial health. But when you come home after all the stress that we've gone through all day, this is something that Dwight told Pilar many years ago, is when Justin comes home, he's had a long day. He's had a lot to deal with. Those first 10 seconds when your wife might greet you and say, "Hey, honey, how are you?" I mean, those 10 seconds to me, and I don't remember if it's 10, Dwight, you're going to tell me in a minute. But when I come home with a big smile, maybe a dinner waiting, it doesn't even matter about dinner. It just means about the appreciation from the spouse or the kids makes all the difference in the world for me, Dwight. How important is that?
Well, the study that I think I probably mentioned to Pilar it was 30 seconds.
Okay, 30.
Right, so first 30 seconds at home.
And she's not batting 1,000, but she's getting pretty close.
If you're batting 300, you're doing well in the majors, right? But being able, the first 30 seconds, it sets a tone when you walk in the door. It's being able to say, "You matter. You belong here. You are important to me." So instead of like, "Oh, you're home. You know what? The dog threw up on the carpet. You need to fix that. I hate that dog." Right? Instead of going there, we go to, "Man, you matter. You belong." One of the things I've seen working around a lot of fire stations with firefighters, first responders, is the brotherhood of the badge, the brotherhood of those individuals that live together, they eat together, they scrape people off of the highway together. And what happens is they bond and connect together because you belong here, you matter. When my team worked at Ground Zero in New York City after the terrorist attacks, I saw people that hadn't been off that pile in a month, 2 months, because they were looking for a friend, a brother, somebody from their fire station, because they said, "That guy, I'm not related to him by birth. I'm not related to him in terms of a relative, but I'm related to him, kind of like we're in this thing together, a bond of brothers." And when you're able to say, in today's culture, people don't need more information. They don't need more books about diet and health to prevent cardiovascular disease. They don't need information. They need application. It's something that I think we're going to be hearing a lot in the first response community. See something, say something, didn't work. The Parkland shooter had 43 911 calls in 2 years made on him and 2 FBI calls, right? See something, say something, doesn't work. But watch this. See something, say something, do something, right? Do something.
Action.
To be able to move from OMG, I can't believe this happened, to let's do something. And with financial pressure, I want people moving from information to application, to stop blaming, shaming, attacking, criticizing, fighting, arguing, throwing stuff at each other. You're just like your mother. That'll start a fight. I want them to move over to doing something. And sometimes it's picking up the phone, making a call to talk to a professional. If they'll take action, they don't have to live in stress. They're taking action to build a better future.
I could do this for another 4 or 5 hours, guys, and I really appreciate you both being here. I think this was a fantastic, absolutely fantastic show for people, and his name is Dwight Bain. Dwight, one more time, how do we reach you?
Look up Dwight Bain, DWIGHT, BAIN, Dwight Bain, no dots, no spaces on any social media. You can find me.
And Dr. William David, how do we find more information about you, sir?
Yeah, thecardiovascularcenter.com, our website.
Thank you so much for joining us here on another edition of Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark. Thank you so much, guys. Mick Dolan, I don't know much, but I do know one little thing.
What's that?
I'll see you right back here next Saturday on Bud 94.1.